For a nation known for its low crime rate, Singapore still has a number of fugitives who have managed to evade capture for years. These individuals rank among the most wanted by Singaporean authorities, with Interpol Red Notices issued to enlist international assistance in tracking them down. Some have remained on the run for decades. From high-profile fraudsters to violent offenders, this is a list of 10 of the most notorious figures still at large on Singapore's most wanted list. Siak Lai Chun holds the dubious honor of being one of Singapore's longest-standing fugitives. A former bank executive, she allegedly stole 18.7 million Singapore dollars from her bank in the 1990s by using fake cashier's orders. When the massive embezzlement was uncovered in December 1997, Siak, then in her mid-30s, fled Singapore and never returned. Now in her 60s, she has been on Interpol's wanted list for almost 3 decades, making her one of the oldest cases there. Despite international alerts, she has managed to evade arrest since 1997. Little is known about her life on the run, but her long absence suggests she may have assumed a low profile or new identity abroad. Siak Lai Chun remains wanted for embezzlement, and her ability to remain hidden for so long has cemented her place as a legendary figure in Singapore's criminal history. And it's highly likely she may never be captured. Known as Pony Poh Yuan Nie, this former tuition center principal engineered an elaborate O-level exam cheating scheme in 2016. During the exams, she had her team secretly feed answers to 6 students via skin-colored earpieces. Poh was the mastermind. She arranged for an associate to sit as a fake exam candidate who live-streamed the question papers while her accomplices solved them and dictated answers to the students. The plot unraveled when an invigilator heard unusual noises from a student's earpiece. In 2020, Poh, then 57, was convicted on 27 counts of cheating and sentenced to 4 years in jail. But in September 2022, just before she was to begin her sentence, Poh vanished. She failed to turn herself in and is believed to have fled Singapore. Authorities issued a warrant of arrest and an Interpol Red Notice for her. As of 2025, police publicly appealed for information on her whereabouts. Poh, now about 59 years old, remains on the run. In September 2006, a 46-year-old man was beaten to death in a gang-related attack at Central Square in downtown Singapore. Mohammed Faidhil bin Mawi, then just 24, was allegedly part of the gang and is wanted in connection with this fatal assault. Faidhil has been on the run for well over a decade. Despite extensive police investigations, Faidhil managed to slip away and has evaded capture since 2006. His name remains on Interpol Red Notice lists, flagged for murder. Given the passage of time, he may have started a new life under an alias, but cold case detectives haven't forgotten him. The victim's family has no closure, and he remains a fugitive wanted for one of Singapore's rare gang killing cases. One fateful dawn in May 2007, a simple night out turned tragic at the Babyface Disco along Fullerton Road. Around 5:30 a.m., patrons leaving the club got into a heated altercation with a large group at the lobby. A brawl erupted, and 35-year-old Lim Chai Huat, a delivery driver, was fatally injured in the melee. Among those involved was Muhammad Ridzuan bin Johan, who worked as a bouncer at the club. As police rounded up suspects, a dozen people from the group have faced justice. Ridzuan slipped away and remains at large to this day. He is wanted for murder in connection with the brawl, suspected of having dealt the blow that led to Lim's death. Ridzuan was about 25 at the time and is now 43. Despite the incident happening in a prominent downtown venue, Ridzuan managed to evade capture, possibly fleeing overseas early. He continues to feature on Singapore's wanted list, a fugitive from a moment of nightclub chaos that turned deadly. In 2008, Soon Joo, a Singaporean taxi driver, hatched a desperate plan to get rich quickly, a plan that turned into a nightmare for one family. Neo targeted a 60-year-old woman from a wealthy family, along with her 2-year-old granddaughter and the family's maid. One day, as the woman's red BMW pulled into her home in Bradell Heights, Neo and an accomplice ambushed them at knife point in the driveway. They forced the terrified grandmother to instruct her chauffeur to drive to a bank in Hougang, where she withdrew 50,000 Singapore dollars in ransom cash and handed it over. Neo's accomplice eventually released the hostages unharmed, but Neo himself made a quick escape. He was last seen being dropped off at Singapore's Woodlands checkpoint, where he fled across the border to Malaysia. In the aftermath, authorities rescued the victims and arrested Neo's co-conspirators, but Neo Soon Joo disappeared without a trace. He is now 54 and wanted for armed robbery, abduction, and kidnapping. Neo's brazen crime shocked Singapore, a country with very few kidnappings, and his escape into Malaysia shows how criminals may exploit international borders. Not all of Singapore's most wanted are citizens. Some are foreigners who committed heinous crimes on its soil. In April 2012, Indonesian money courier Suhardi Tan was found stabbed to death in a stairwell at the Arcade in Singapore's central business district. Police believe it was a targeted killing, likely committed by someone who knew the victim's cash delivery routines. Their prime suspect is Loo Soon Aik, a Malaysian national and reported associate of the victim. He was frequently seen at the location and disappeared shortly after the murder. Loo was often seen frequenting mobile phone shops at the Arcade in Raffles Place, possibly scoping out the courier's routine. Authorities believe he fled Singapore within days. An Interpol Red Notice was issued for Loo, but over a decade later he remains at large, likely hiding in Malaysia. Now he is 44, he is still wanted for murder, making his case one of Singapore's most enduring unsolved crimes. One of the most disturbing cases on Singapore's books is the 2013 murder of Dexman Chua, a 37-year-old businessman. The crime had all the elements of a dark drama: an affair, jealousy, and brutal violence. Febri Djatmiko Irwansyah, an Indonesian, allegedly helped his Singaporean friend Siak Lai Chun kidnap and murder Chua in a twisted revenge plot. Chua had been romantically involved with Chia's wife, which sealed his fate. According to court documents, Chia enlisted Febri to abduct Chua near his home in Choa Chu Kang. They beat Chua savagely in the back of a van, acting on Chia's vengeful orders. And when Chua died from the assault, they dumped his body in a remote Lim Chu Kang area. The aftermath was just as dramatic. Siak Lai Chun was caught, convicted as the mastermind, and sentenced to death. Another accomplice, the driver of the van, was jailed, but Febri escaped Singapore before he could be arrested, and he remains at large to this day. Now, about 43 years old, Febri has an Interpol notice on him for murder. Nearly a decade later, Singapore authorities have no clue where he might be. He vanished back into Indonesia, and possibly onward, leaving Chua's family waiting for full justice. Feng Tao, a Chinese national, is wanted in Singapore for an extensive fraud scheme, but details about him are frustratingly scarce. Singaporean authorities have charged Feng with 12 counts of cheating and dishonestly inducing the delivery of property, essentially a multi-count con job, believed to have been committed around 2012. The total value of his scams hasn't been publicly disclosed, but given the number of charges, it was likely substantial. Feng Tao fled Singapore before he could be prosecuted, and despite being placed on an Interpol Red Notice, he has remained a phantom. Even the Interpol notice for Feng provides little beyond his name, age, and charges. No mugshots or detailed descriptions have been made public, making the hunt even harder. For Singapore's white-collar crime investigators, Feng Tao represents an unfinished chapter, a reminder that in the global fight against fraud, some culprits manage to disappear without a trace. In 2008, a brutal crime shook a quiet Singapore neighborhood, and the man believed to be behind it vanished without a trace. His name is Raju Dhali, a Bangladeshi national who had been working in Singapore as a process maintenance worker. According to authorities, Raju was involved in the murder of another Bangladeshi national on Singaporean soil. The full details of the crime remain classified, but what is clear, within days of the killing, Raju disappeared. Investigators later discovered that Raju had fled the country, slipping through the cracks before border alerts were raised. He is believed to have returned to Chandpur Sadar in Bangladesh, where he may still be hiding today. As of 2025, Singapore authorities continue to appeal for public help, and his face remains listed among Interpol's internationally wanted persons. Now presumed to be in his 40s, Raju Dhali has evaded justice for over 17 years. Edo Kurniawan was once the vice president of controlling and finance at Wirecard Asia, a key player in one of the most notorious global fintech scandals. In 2018, he orchestrated a scheme with colleagues to embezzle up to 100,000 Singapore dollars from Wirecard Asia, funneling funds through falsified invoices and shell transactions. The fraud unraveled in mid-2022, prompting a warrant of arrest and the issuance of an Interpol Red Notice on 22 August 2022, despite convictions and jail terms for his accomplices. Edo vanished from public record as quietly as he fled, last seen leaving Singapore in October 2018. It's believed he slipped seamlessly out before the net closed in. Today, he's wanted internationally for criminal breach of trust, invoice falsification, and laundering illicit gains. Singapore's police continue to urge anyone with information to step forward via their hotline or eyewitness portal. As a bonus addition to our list, we turn to one of Singapore's most infamous white-collar fugitives. And yes, he also happens to be the father of a famous local Singaporean DJ and influencer, Jade Rasif. In 2006, David Rasif, a once prominent lawyer, executed one of the boldest financial crimes in Singapore's history. He disappeared with 11.3 million Singapore dollars of client funds from his law firm's escrow accounts. David didn't just flee. He moved quickly to convert the money into gold bars and high-value jewelry, discreetly channeling the assets through Vietnam, Hong Kong, and other countries. He was last seen in June 2006, telling colleagues he was flying to Bangkok, and though he surfaced there briefly, he completely vanished soon after. Now, almost 2 decades later, he remains a fugitive. His case is a haunting example of how someone well-versed in the legal system can manipulate it to vanish without a trace, leaving behind broken trust, unanswered questions, and millions unaccounted for.